Space Jam: A New Legacy is a 2021 American live-action animated sports comedy film directed by Malcolm Lee, and it is a standalone sequel of the 1996 film Space Jam, starring Michael Jordan. This film, instead of Michael Jordan, we get LeBron James as a fictionalized version of himself, along with Don Cheadle, Chris Davis, and Sonequa Martin Green in live-action roles, with Jeff Bergman, Eric Bazu, and Zendaya headlining the Looney Tunes voice cast. Set in the shared Warner Brothers virtual space multiverse, the film follows LeBron James teaming up with the Looney Tunes to win a basketball game against digitized champions to rescue some from a rogue AI. Aw yeah, pump up the jam and welcome to the slam. Pump up a jam, cause it's Space Jam 2 Electric Boogaloo, and it's a fine film. That is what I'll start off with saying. Space Jam: A New Legacy is just a fine film. It's not good, and it's not bad. It's just fine. I'm not going to say that the original 1996 Space Jam film is a masterpiece either. There's a lot of issues with that film, but it was a fun film for a product of the 90s. It was made to sell merchandise. It was actually based off of merchandise with Jordan and Looney Tunes, and it worked because it was self-referential. This is just film. This was fine. This film was made to bank on the nostalgia being built up for the past 25 years after the original film, and I can live with that. What I thought worked in this film was the Looney Tunes, of course. I grew up watching their shorts and spin-off series, my favorite being Duck Dodgers, and the 2011 Looney Tunes show isn't that bad. It's very actually funny, kind of like slice of life Looney Tunes that you won't really expect from it. But I feel that their brand of slapstick and meta comedy can work in any piece of media, and that's why I felt like it worked in this film as well as the first Space Jam film. And you can just slip them into anywhere, like in a piece of media, and they'll work. And they kind of did that with putting the Looney Tunes in different other films, like Casablanca, Mad Max Fury Road, which is actually pretty good, and The Matrix. And, you know, it all worked. It worked for good comedy, I'd say. Also, Don Cheadle was good. He was my favorite part of the film. He really hammed up his role as the villain, and you could tell he's just having fun with it, and it made the film a lot more watchable. If I can compare his performance to another actor who I think did a good job of hamming up their performance as a villain, it would be Peter Dinklage as Dr. Psycho, or Professor Evil, or Professor Psycho from Underdog in 2007. That is what I compare it to, but this one's a little bit more refined and a little more funny. I think Don Cheadle did better than Peter Dinklage. Now let me get to the downsides of what I had for the film. So starting off, LeBron. I'm not a LeBron James fan. I can respect the man's legacy. I can say that he is one of the best basketball players of all time. He's not the best, however. He did an okay job acting. I've seen him do better in Judd Apatow's Trainwreck with Amy Schumer and Bill Hader, but he was bouncing off Bill Hader in that film. And he was like, oh, you know, you guys should come to Cleveland. Like, that was funny. LeBron was funny in Trainwreck. And there is some chops that if he has refined acting, he can probably become one of the better basketball players going into acting. But for now, he needs to just go back to the workshop and see like what he can do to refine his craft. Another thing that I didn't like about this film will be the comedy. Now, when I said that some of the comedy with the Looney Tunes, it works because it's meta and is referential to themselves, and it works for their reality. Some the jokes just fell a little flat. It had a terrible setup. It was like hot and cold. It was like hot. It was like, oh, that's a funny joke. Like, there's a joke about Michael Jordan in here? That's awesome. Then, you know, kind of just falls flat. Like, oh, let's reference this thing. And it's just, I don't know. I know it's written for kids, but even still, it's just like, I don't think some of the kids would laugh at that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know these audience nowadays. And speaking of referential, we got talking about the references, which has been a huge issue for many other reviewers, and that's including myself. Yes, I know, Ready Player One did the same thing, but that made sense because it was a virtual world where you could be whoever or whatever you wanted to be. So that gave Warner Brothers an excuse to use their licensed properties, such as, you know, the Iron Giant, The Shining, and so on. That actually worked. But in Space Jam: A New Legacy, they just said screw it and flexed all the properties in the serververse. And while some of the cameos and references were good, we had a Rick and Morty cameo, Iron Giant, King Kong. I thought, you know, those were cool, but there was just some where I'm just like, they were forced and didn't fit. And I don't think kids watching this, and even some of the older people who grew up watching Space Jam, who might not be akin to like all these properties, they might not know what it is. Like, hey, here's Looking at You, kid. That's from Casablanca. And they do reference Casablanca because it's this whole serververse where it's different worlds in like Warner Brothers, you know, Casablanca, Matrix, King Kong. It's like all that. And it's just like, you can get some of the references, but some, it just felt a little, just too referential, just too on the nose. And it just seemed like Warner Bros. Was just flexing, showing, look at all our properties. We got everything we want. And that just made it a little bit, kind of seem like a corporate product placement movies, when instead of products, it's just a corporate properties movie, I'll call it this. Space Jam: A New Legacy is a corporate property movie. Space Jam: A New Legacy was released July 16, 2021 in theaters and HBO Max simultaneously on a budget of $150 million. So far in its run at the box office, it has made $54.7 million worldwide. So overall, Space Jam: A New Legacy is fine. It may have come a little bit too late when it came for like a sequel, because they were originally going to do a sequel in the 90s, but it fell flat because Jordan said, I'm not doing another one of these movies. But it's here and can serve as a fine introduction to the new generation of Space Jam fans, even if they didn't like the first one or they have never seen it. This is a good introduction to say, hey, welcome to the world of Space Jam. Oh, and one more thing. The fact that the original Space Jam theme by Quad City is in here, it brings down the film significantly. And I'm going to give Space Jam: A New Legacy, aka Space Jam 2, a 4.7 out of 10.